Coming up on today's episode, there's been a huge AEW TNT Contract update, including a second AEW TV show. Laurie recaps last night's episode of NXT, where we saw a new #1 contender to the NXT Women's Championship, and Luke takes us through last night's AEW Dynamite, where DDP was in action.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk stacked news and stacked reviews. Nearly fell off my box. I am Chopper Pete Quinnell. It seems that since their launch to TV in October, execs behind AEW have been rather happy with the results, and as such, it was officially announced yesterday that AEW have a brand spanking new contract with TNT. The official press release states, Warner Media has extended their deal for AEW Dynamite, a top 20 new cable unscripted series, through 2023. This new contract means they will be broadcasting on TNT through 2023, securing them in for another 4 years. A fact AEW President Tony Khan was sure to make sure you understood on Twitter. But wait, there's more! The press release went on to say, in addition, the parties have agreed to launch another night of AEW action, offering more of the fans' favorite wrestlers with a second show straight to series. Not only is the extension of the contract a massive success for AEW, as part of this contract extension, they will also now be airing a secondary AEW TV show. Wait, are we gonna have to review it? Is that more work for us? Oh god. While it initially wasn't revealed what this second show was going to be, it has now been confirmed via Kevin Riley, the Turner president, in an interview with Tony Maglio of The Wrap, that it will be AEW Dark, albeit with some alterations, and it may not air 52 weeks of the year. We're going to embellish AEW Dark and put some additional material, kind of behind the scenes, kind of docu-follow stuff, if you will, about the athletes and the stories. I think we'll start doing more packages there and filming some behind the scenes stuff, not for the matches that night, but with other talent to plant stories and grow things that could eventually become another show in and of itself. This would make a lot of sense, considering AEW Dark has been used to further stories when it's only been on YouTube. There is some level of importance placed on this secondary show already. What these changes are seem to be hinting to making it a bit more of a fleshed out show, with backstage interviews and video packages more so than just the matches themselves. Ever since the initial launch of AEW Dynamite on TNT, there were reports surfacing that AEW may be looking to broadcast a second show, to which there were mixed reactions at the time. Some fans may ask whether it's too soon for AEW to broadcast 2 shows a week, but at the very least, we can hope that they would learn from WWE and not make their own Survivor Series where it's the one night of the year where Dynamite and Dark go head-to-head in direct competition. End me if that happens. Regardless of the direction AEW take it from here, this has to be considered a resounding success for the company, who has exceeded the 500,000 viewership target that TNT set them every week, and on some weeks, by quite some way. In fact, according to the press release surrounding this new contract, AEW Dynamite has averaged 1.2 million viewers per week, including 7-day playback after the fact. That is a huge number for an upstart company, and they will no doubt be looking to expand that number heading into the rest of 2020 and beyond. President and CEO of AEW Tony Khan seemed understandably quite happy with this development, stating as part of the press release, "When we launched AEW 1 year ago, we wanted to start a revolution that would disrupt the wrestling business, but everyone said that it would take a strong weekly television partner to make AEW real in the eyes of everyone, above all, the fans." What virtually no one realized at the time was Kevin Riley and TNT were committed to this very same movement from day one, and their belief in us made it possible for AEW to think and act big from the start. Here we are only 3 months into Wednesday Night Dynamite, and now we've been extended through 2023. We're now making the ultimate statement that the team of AEW and TNT is here to stay and to bring fans more of the great wrestling that the fans demand and deserve. Whether this will be cause for concern from WWE remains to be seen, and whether WWE responds by scheduling another show to run against AEW Dark also remains to be seen, but it wouldn't be out of the question. Considering NXT UK is now out of contention with its BT Sport deal, perhaps 205 Live could be broadcast as competition to the second AEW show, or Table for 3, or Swerved, or WWE The Bump, which I'm still not sure actually exists. What even is it? And now over to Laurie for the NXT recap. Hot tag!
Before we crack on with the NXT review, we'd just like to say thank you to the Beast Brock Taylor for your support on Patreon. We couldn't do it without you. It's return to WWE on NXT as Alex Shelley is in the Impact Zone, Tegan Nox is back, Mercedes Martinez makes her post-signing debut, Casey Catanzaro didn't quit, what? And a wild Deonna Purrazzo appears. Although a lot less fuss was made about that one, to be honest. So another week, another ram-jammed NXT episode that doubled down on efforts to build some sort of Worlds Collide hype, finally, and started getting the pieces in place for TakeOver Portland. Now, after recapping Undisputed Era and Imperium from TakeOver Blackpool, the show opens and Keith Lee enters the ring immediately, and he says that Undisputed Era have reached their peak, their limit, while he is limitless. I'm Laurie from WrestleTalk.com, and here are the top 10 Undisputed Era ring invasions and beatdowns of the week. Number 3 will shock your system, because the UE storm the ring and start wailing on Keith, hooking his foot through a chair and stomping on it. Thankfully though, Daddy was home to run off the ruffians and, I don't know, kiss the ouchie better? This was a really hot opening segment that adds to the tension for next week's title match. Then the Broserweights took on Southwest Subculture in a Dusty Classic all-time classic, because Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster put on a spirited display but ultimately fell to the combined might of Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, who have formed a megazord that is sort of half black pudding, half marijuana. Oh man. Daddy was still home and stayed home and comes out to lecture us on how his life has been ruined by Adam Cole. Midlife crisis much, Thomas. Next thing you know, he's going to get a motorbike and a new jacket. But he doesn't get very far before number 2 on our list of UE beatdowns. Thankfully, it helps to have very forgiving friends as Johnny Gargano runs out to make the save. We then get the briefest little glimpse of a DIY reunion as the pair meet in the middle. The middle being the entire face of Bobby Fish. Hold the phone, Trent Seven has just texted in to say DIY should fight Moustache Mountain, and I am here for this. But it is weird, because I know for a fact that Trent Seven was in London last night at a party and unlikely to be staying up to watch NXT. I'm beginning to think this wrestling business is fake, isn't it? The Time Splitters then took us all the way back to 2013 and Japan as Alex Shelley and Kushida took on grizzled young veterans in a Dusty Classic matchup. Now initially, Zach Gibson and James Drake were frustrated by the lightning-fast offense of Shelley and Kushida, but eventually their methodical tag team style wore the smaller men down, giving them just enough room to hit Ticket to Mayhem and get the 1-2-3. It was a great match, and it really gives the vets some much-needed big heel energy in NXT. Shoes off if you hate Gibson. Lio Rush, Tyler Breeze, and Isaiah Swerve Scott then went head-to-head for a spot in the Cruiserweight Championship Fatal 4-Way at Worlds Collide. Now, Swerve had new music and a new Tron, so he's going over, isn't he? He won. It was a great little match with some really clever combinations from all three guys and some amazing face-offs specifically from Rush and Scott. Next, Ciampa and Johnny have a sort of reconciliatory interview interruption outside, saying that they will team up to take on Moustache Mounting at Worlds Collide for old time's sake. But just before they finally kiss, which we've all been waiting for, the Undisputed Era arrive causing a ruckus, only for Keith Lee to just come steamrolling in and start chucking security around in order to get to Roddy. This was amazingly fiery and destructive, and I loved it, and I can't wait for next week. Then we got the main event, the Women's Battle Royal, with all of the usual suspects in the match, plus the debut of Mercedes Martinez, the return of Tegan Nox, Shayna Baszler surprise entering herself, Ooh, matron, Deonna Purrazzo utterly unloved and unannounced, and Casey Catanzaro, who, if you remember, it was reported last year, had quit the business altogether after suffering a back injury that hadn't been seen at the Performance Center for quite some time, and was moved to the alumni page on WWE.com for a very brief spell. And despite all the people saying she hadn't left, everyone was kind of like, where is she? Well, there she is. There she is. Admittedly, she doesn't get much in the way of offense in this match, as it's mostly dominated by Belair and Baszler. But it's green-haired rabble-rouser Shotzi Blackheart who causes the biggest upset and makes the biggest impact, doing the classic, oh, you forgot I was in this match spot, and sort of tipping Baszler out. And then as she's shouting, who's your daddy? It's Ciampa. Ciampa's our daddy. She gets tipped out by Belair too. Now, conspicuous by her absence in the match was Dakota Kai, because of course she's gonna mess with Tegan, dragging her off the turnbuckle and just eliminating her from the match. So it comes down to, in the end, Belair and Io Shirai, with the crowd mostly behind the Genius of the Sky. But raw power overcometh all, and it's Belair who goes on to face the women's champion at TakeOver, which might be either Toni Storm or Rhea Ripley because of Worlds Collide next week, because building 2 shows turns out it's really hard. But actually, NXT handled it really well here. They put on exciting matches, booking in even more for next week and in February, and giving us returns and debuts aplenty. It is getting a 4 out of 5 for me, undisputedly good. Over to Luke now for AEW.
Thanks for that developmental review there, Laurie, but it's now time to get elite, just like this guy with his amazing sign, as I review the 14th of January 2020 edition of AEW Dynamite in about 4 minutes, aka Bash at the Beach. Last week on the WrestleTalk live review, I said that if Bash at the Beach didn't have all the gimmicks on the stage and the commentators weren't wearing Hawaiian shirts, then this would be a complete waste of time and I would give it a 1 out of 5 rating. Well, they got it right. We had sand, we had surfboards, we had palm trees, we even had a sexy lifeguard, though not as sexy as Billy from Stranger Things. You know, before the Mind Flayer got it. And we had our commentators wearing Hawaiian Wait a second! Dang it, JR, we were so close. Now I'm giving it a 1 out of 5. Even I've made an effort by wearing a Hawaiian shirt, even though it's Ollie's one from yesterday, because I don't actually own my own one. I'll have a proper one when we do the live review later. Still 1 out of 5. Dang it, JR. Dynamite kicked off with incredible tag action as Santana and Ortiz faced off against best friends, the Young Bucks, and the team of Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, with the winners becoming the new #1 contenders to SCU. This built on the brilliantly told story of Hangman Page's troubles with the Elite, which has easily been the best thing on Dynamite since Cody's feud with Chris Jericho. This was all action all the time, with dives and finishes, and saw Page and Omega pick up the win with the V-Trigger Buckshot combo. The real story came just moments before though, when Page blind tagged himself in while the Bucks were in control. There was some squabbling between the Elite after the match, but Page continued his brilliant subtle acting choices by saying he was cool with it when clearly he wasn't. Later, a drunken cowboy interrupted an SCU interview and had to be calmed down by Omega. I love everything about this storyline. Cody cut a good promo on MJF, accepting his stipulations for their match at Revolution, including taking 10 whips from MJF on live TV. Kinky. And Joey Janela also cut a decent promo saying he's going to improve his 2020 when he faces Rey Fenix next week. What I didn't love, however, was the Nightmare Collective's match against Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. This was slow, plodding, and very, very boring. And bizarrely, they built the match around showing how strong Mel is, and then they pinned her. What was that all about? Dark Order got a promo that included the voice of the actual leader of the group, giving the message to recruit members of the Elite. I was certain the leader was supposed to be Evil Uno, but apparently it's Dr. Claw. I'll get you next time, cowboy. Next time! The crowd were killed by Nightmare Collective and didn't really pick up for Sammy Guevara and Jon Moxley's decent match. Mox picked up the win and afterwards got attacked by Inner Circle, who blinded him with one of Jericho's jacket spikes. It was a simple angle and one that worked. DDP had his first wrestling match on TNT in nearly 20 years when he teamed with Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall to take on MJF and The Butcher, The Blade! The crowd really didn't get into this match either, until DDP tagged in and hit a load of diamond cutters, which they very much enjoyed, myself included. MJF rolled up QT for the win. It was great seeing DDP back in the ring, and I hope it's not the last time we see him. And the main event saw Pac versus Darby Allin, the winner of which will take on Moxley next week on the Jericho Cruise to determine the #1 contender to Le Champion, which I'll be honest, I thought was already Moxley. This was a fantastic match, let down by a crowd that didn't care. Pac got the win with the Black Arrow and then confronted Jon Moxley, or is that Snake Plissken, about their match on next week's cruise. So that was this week's AEW Dynamite. In about 4 minutes, vote in the poll above my head to let me know what you thought of the show using these options on screen. This was a pretty meh episode of Dynamite. I loved all the Hangman Adam Page stuff, but wasn't blown away by much else. This week's AEW Dynamite was middle of the roads. WWE have signed 6 new wrestlers, and which WWE star has Vince McMahon given up on? Click the videos on screen right now to find out more. Thank you for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon pledge hammers, some of which you can see scrolling their way into my stomach. I've been Luke Owen, and that were wrestling.